Welcome to Le Crudita's 14th annual Mardi Gras Parade. It is Carnival 2010 on a chilly Friday night. I'm at Gallier Hall along with Errol Laborde.
We couldn't be at a more historic spot here at Gallier Hall. This is going back to 1872, the very first Rex Parade. This is where the Grand Duke Alexis actually saw its first parade. And ever since then, city officials have been greeting mayors and queens every Mardi Gras.
And this crew formed in 1996, obviously many, many years after the first Carnival parades here, but they tried to sort of harken back to some of those old traditions.
It's faithful to a lot of the old traditions in terms of float design, in flambeau, and the way people mask, but it's also satirical. It has a bit of an edge to it. There's a little bit of a sassy side to it also.
They want you to come away really laughing from this parade.
That's their goal, make people laugh. It's a very visual parade.
And we have a crew on the ground to sort of get up close and get visual with some of those floats. And our Kristen Ergel is on the ground. Kristen.
Well, Karen, we are already having tons of fun down here. Now, the skeleton crew from Crudita is going to be coming through in just a few minutes to hand out these carnival bulletins. Basically, what this is, it's a picture of each float with a description, and the crowd can follow along and see what's next, and also serves as a little memento, a little souvenir for the way home, something to remember this great parade by. Guys, back up to you.
All right, and it should be a memorable night because nobody is off limits. Everybody is going to get sort of skewered here tonight, whether you're a city official and an entertainer on the local or national spotlight.
It's a good parade for television, actually, because it's very visual. They throw a lot of things, but it's not just about catching things. There are things to see on the floats. They put a lot of thought into the design and the humor on the floats.
Right, and that's one of the things we're going to help point out to you in case it's going a little fast. We're going to say, hey, take a look over here because there is so much that you don't want to miss with this parade. So stay tuned. You got the best seat in the house. We'll be right back with the start of Le Crudita. All right, while we are waiting for the lead units to get here at historic Gallier Hall, we are going to thank some sponsors, some people who have made this broadcast possible. Errol, who do we have to thank?
We have some honorable sponsors. One is Bill and Ann Hughes. I saw Bill Hughes the other night. They have been longtime supporters of Carnival broadcasts. They really have the Carnival spirit. The other is Padres Home. Padres Home is really one of the important institutions in uptown New Orleans, and the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic. Thanks to all of them.
All right, and also we want to thank Murphy, McHenry and Company Appraisal Service. They're also big supporters of this organization and Carnival in general. Locke, Lord, Bissell, and Liddell. Also, Bienvenue, Foster, Ryan, and O'Banion. Thanks to all our sponsors. We also want to take a minute to sort of take a look at some of the history and one of the reasons why this parade, right off the bat in 1998 when they first paraded, was such a crowd favorite. And we talked to Arthur Hardy a couple of weeks ago and got his thoughts on that. Take a look.
I think Crudita has almost a history instantly of doing innovative throws, blinky beads. They just do a lot of things that regular crews didn't do until they came along. Perhaps the favorite thing they do, because I love the old style Mardi Gras, they produce a newspaper each year called like Gazette, and it illustrates each float with a description of what each float is. So it's like having a preview of the parade before you see it and a remembrance of the parade after you see it. And this is an old tradition, but they used to sell them on street corners starting back in 1874. But again, something new. They have a group called the Skeleton Crew that walks in front of the parade and hands these out free to people along the parade route. So it's a blending of the old and the new once again. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say it's probably the most important crew founded since Bacchus. I mean, that's how significant they are. They've brought back some of the wonderful traditions of satire, of secrecy, and yet at the same time they're very innovative. There's a lot of attention to detail, and they're serious about having fun. They are an equal opportunity offender. There's somebody who gets skewed on every float, institutions, local, national, international. You recognize a lot of the figures and themes. And it's just fun. It's a lot of fun. I think people are going to enjoy this parade.
Right, the lead unit for the Crudita's 14th annual parade, the Budweiser Clydesdales.
And Karen, by law, you're not supposed to have commercialism in parades in New Orleans. But the Budweiser Clydesdales have been around so long that they're grandfathered in. And so they're one of the few that are allowed to have an advertisement on the side, albeit just the name of Budweiser.
You know, and it's interesting that you mentioned that, because in 1996, when a group of guys got together and said, we're going to form a new parade, we want to do it different. We kind of don't like the way some things are headed. And one of the things that they said they didn't like about Mardi Gras was some of the commercialism. And so they did want to really sort of take a step back in time, Krewe d'Etat did, with how they did their parade.
And it's illegal in Orleans Parish. If someone has commercialism on floats, it's illegal. Now, I doubt if a policeman's going to go and arrest them, but you're not supposed to do it. And most crews are fairly faithful to it. And that's what's great about our carnival, that so many things, either they're commercialized or they have corporate sponsors. Here you have something that's paid for by the people who are putting on the event. I mean, the people who are riding on the cruise are the ones who are paying to put on this event non-commercially. And so I think that's very refreshing.
They sit around every year right after the next parade, and as most crews do, they start to look at their themes pretty quickly because they've got to work. And these guys, though, probably have a little bit more fun because it's all about poking fun. Anybody who's put their foot in their mouth the following or the previous year is fair game.
The challenge they have is because they do satire, that things that are really topical, you can't always turn around at the last moment. So some of their crews, they have to do like broader satirical themes, but they always keep a few floats around to the last moment. We're seeing the skeleton crew pass right now.
There's the skeleton crew.
This is something that's imitation of what used to go on in the black Creole neighborhoods on Mardi Gras, that it was a tradition for people in those neighborhoods to dress like skeletons. I just think it's just so wonderful to see a recreation of that. The black skeleton crews and then also the Mardi Gras Indians are two traditions that developed like in the Trinidad neighborhood and in the black Creole neighborhoods. And I really salute the Krewe d'Etat for recreating that.
For bringing that back. It looks very carnival. And what they are passing out is the Krewe d'Etat's Gazette, which really gives a great description. Not only does it have the pictures of all the floats, and so you can get a close-up look in case you missed it. Right. But it has a description of what they were really intending and a lot of sort of tongue-in-cheek things about each float.
The St. Aug band is passing up front. There's a banner for Edwin Hamilton, who for a long time was the director of the band, a legendary figure who died during the last year. But he was one of the men who really contributed to the greatness of this band. This is easily the most popular high school band in New Orleans.
And they were here with Krewe d'Etat right from the beginning in 1998. Let's listen in for a second.
We're seeing the captain pass wearing the traditional captain's white costume. And Karen, in the power structure of Mardi Gras, it is the captain who's the boss. The captain is the one who runs the day-to-day. Being king is a ceremonial thing.
Right.
But the captain, it's a dictatorship, and the captain is the one in charge. This particular captain is one who's very, very committed. And like the old crews, they keep the identity secret.
Right. Even the dictator, and whereas in some crews you find out later who it is, such as Rex, King of Carnival, the dictator, we will never know. The crew finds out, but we will never know.
The old tradition is not about celebrities. It's about the presentation, and you wear a mask to hide identity rather than to try to present celebrities. But one twist that the Krewe d'Etat did is instead of having a king, they have a dictator,
right.
And they call it Richard. So this is the dictator Richard the 14th.
Right. And again, we don't know who he is. He looks great. He's having a great time. The 14th dictator.
Dressed in sort of a Napoleonic costume.
Right. and it's kind of a sort of a tribute to the rise of power. They said they wanted to sort of seize Mardi Gras and take it over and get it back to its original roots. And it was the play on words there with coup d'etat and Krewe d'Etat. Very clever.
Which to me is like the most clever name in Mardi Gras. Toasting the dictator of the night is former Councilman Jay Batt, who is the former councilman who's running for re-election and it was a runoff.
And I think we'll see him a little later on a float.
The parade looks beautiful so far. pleasure it is for us to be riding tonight. It's a little chilly, but you know what? It doesn't get any better than this. This city's so full of life, I can't believe it. This is fantastic. And we won the doggone Super Bowl less than a week ago. Here, to the city of New Orleans, and joy to vivre.
Dictator Richard, thank you very much and welcome to Gallier Hall. We have something for you, sir, the key to the city and a proclamation from the city as well. I don't think the key works in every door. It's symbolic, but it's yours.
You know, I'm going to try it out.
Okay, you do that.
Find a few that it works on, but I'll tell you what a night, what a city. Everybody should do this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And you have some wonderful pages right here. They look like they're having a good time. How y'all doing, boys? All right.
And it's interesting, Harold, that you would have Jay Batt here and not some of the current city officials. Maybe they know that they're going to be skewered a little later on in this parade.
If someone's in public life, and if they're very sensitive, they may not want to steal the Krewe d'etat because they tend to kind of skewer everybody. Some people more than others. But yeah, Jay Batt's a curious choice. But I just think it's because they know him. He's probably a friend, and they requested it. So
He's got the Lombardi trophy with him, or a replica thereof. How wonderful. Everyone's got Saints fever.
How's it been so far? Great crowds? Fantastic.
It's a beautiful float with that fire element, with that really very attractive.
Royal artists really put a lot of care and energy, and they don't just paint things on. They add these little pieces. As you can see, those torches with the fleur-de-lis around them, aren't obviously just painted on. They're put on with a lot of care, a lot of hard work.
Hail Dictator Richard, the dictator of Krewe d'etat.
And people need to understand that, look, the Krewe d'etat is one of the few crews actually that owns its own floats.
Right.
The floats that you see there are their floats. They get together at the end of Carnival. They take them apart and they design new floats. Some crews just have rented floats that they get from a float builder, but these are their own floats. And so a lot of creativity goes into this.
They said that also it helps them have a little more control over things, and these guys are about control and power.
Absolutely.
This is Brother Martin's high school marching band.
A little Mardi Gras mambo. Royal Artist, the float builder, for many years, a really gentleman named Herbert Jenke headed it. He died a couple of years ago, and his wife decided to take over the business, and they've done and she's brought some people into the business. They've done a good job preserving the sort of things he did. He was a very creative man.
The sketches that they come up with just an idea that someone gives them and says, can this work? And it's amazing what they can put to paper and then ultimately in a float. And we're looking at some of the riding lieutenants there, Krewe d'etat's riding lieutenants. Again, all part of the secrecy. We don't know who they are,
We don't. This is the banana wagon, which is something that they introduced a couple of years ago. It's an imitation of an uptown bar named Bruno's that used to, on Mardi Gras, get an old wagon and sort of spoof Mardi Gras. People go drive around, and so they've recreated it. So what was once spoofed is now institutionalized.
It's wonderful, and they've got the mules just as it was back in the day, pulled by the mules.
And you wonder, where do you get mules from in New Orleans? Unfortunately, there are these carriage companies that have the carriages in the French Quarter. So we actually have a herd of mules in New Orleans available for such uses.
You can see on the top of the banana wagon, it says, live to ride and ride to live. That is the motto of this crew. And they're living that fully tonight. Right, this is the Tulane Green Wave Band.
I always feel good to see the Tulane band because they're trying. Tulane is not, give band scholarships. These are people who just volunteer just to be part of a band, but they're trying, and and it's just heartening to see them. There is a theme But knowing the theme doesn't tell you very much.
Right.
Because the theme is just a backdrop to a lot of tongue-in-cheek satire. Satires, there's always been some of it in Carnival. It goes back to the, in 1877, the Moments Parade first started it. It did satirical parades right along this route where we're standing. And back in 1877, you were still in Reconstruction, and so the Reconstruction government was satirized a lot. They didn't always like that. And actually, by sort of a gentleman's agreement, there wasn't satire. They dropped it for almost a century. Then in 1977, Moments brought satire back. When Moments went under a few years ago, some other crews, like Le Crew d'Etat, it reintroduced satire. Muses does it. The crew of Chaos, which uses Moments as old floats. And so now there's actually more satire than ever. It used to be just one crew did it. But no one does it quite like Crew d'Etat, just because of the quality of their floats.
And here we are, the title float. This is d'Etat's Inferno, a not-so-divine comedy. And just even from their costumes, it's just different.
It kind of tells you which way this is going to go. It's going to have absolutely nothing to do with divine comedy, but it's going to be satirizing. It's going to be satirizing life in the United States and locally.
It's telling you, get ready. Yeah. Get ready for what's about to come.
When this crew started in '96, it was the hottest thing in Mardi Gras. A lot of people just wanted to get into this because they saw this as being something, not the same old thing, something really new and exciting.
Not stuffy, right.
Yeah. And I think it introduced a next generation of people into Mardi Gras. A lot of people who may not be involved in Carnival were not for this.
And they were crowd pleasers right off the bat. Voted in numerous publications, best night parade, best floats. The critics and the crowds alike just really took a shine to these guys and said, you're really putting on a great parade.
And they're creative in their throws. They show some interesting throws, all kind of little blinking things and stuff things, and so they're good with that. But like I said, you don't have to be obsessed with the throws. You can just watch this parade because it's very visual.
Right, and they were the first, I think it was 1999, to have the first blinking beads. So they are innovative, and they're looking ahead and trying to do things a little different and be fun and be creative each year as they look at, hey, what can we do?
Which brings to mind, what do you do with blinking beads after Mardi Gras? Like on Ask Winston, do you wear your blinking beads? Or
yeah, you're on the hunt for some new blinking beads, and crews like Crew d'Etat will always help you build your stash because they've got some new little skeletons, and we'll show you when we get a chance. We'll show you some close-ups of some of the really neat stuff that they have this year.
And you know a throw that you see less of now across Mardi Gras is the balloons.
Right.
A few years ago, crews started to notice that the crowd wasn't reacting to the balloons the way they used to do. And so crews still make the balloons, but not as many as they used to.
You see a lot more of the stuffed animals, and d'Etat has a gargoyle stuffed animal they introduced a while back with the flashing lights. It's just an awesome item. Here we have the High Priest. And again, this crew does not have the traditional queen and court and all of that stuff. It's the dictator, the high priest. You have the minister of misinformation. You have the keeper of the flames. You have everything a little bit different. They didn't want to be like everybody else.
And from a journalistic viewpoint, I can tell you, trying to do a story about La Crew d'Etat, you try to call somebody, well, I'm sorry, it's secret. Who should I refer to? Who should I call? The Minister of Misinformation. So you got to call a guy who's in charge of misinformation.
And that's part of the...
And he's a secret, too. So
right.
It's not what you call a standard PR operation.
Just ask Deep Float. We don't know who he is either. You know, we missed, I'm not sure if we saw in the beginning, but the dictator has a femur as a scepter. So everything's a little bit irreverent in this parade. Not your typical scepter. Not your typical leader that you want to say hail to.
And you know, this Friday night before Mardi Gras, and I think the Coup d'etat has a lot to do with it, has become in many years a night as big as Saturday and Sunday with Endymion and Bacchus, especially down on St. Charles Avenue. The combination of Hermes and the Coup d'etat is just a powerful draw to this route. Okay, now we're going to see our first theme float. Okay, and a theme float is a float that's built around what the theme of the parade is, and this one is entitled No Hope. And of course it's referring to City Hall.
And as you come up, you'll take a look at it. It'll say, you want a permit? Yeah. Denied.
And there's a devil figure in the way, and I'll leave it to the viewers to decide
who he looks like.
Who he looks like. It's called the Gates of Hell, and the gates open and close, and there's a figure there, and maybe it's just a coincidence, Karen, who it looks like, but maybe it's not.
Well, look, and it's wonderful too. Look at how they've got the gates opening and shutting like that. Just those wonderful little touches.
But look at that devil figure in there.
It looks like Kristen has found one of our riders to talk to from the Gates of Hell.
Downstairs here, you guys having fun?
It's incredible. This is the best crowd. I've been doing this for 20 years. This crowd is nuts tonight. It's all about the Saints.
I think it had a lot of Saint spirit has something to do with this. You guys back upstairs to you.
This float, the Gates of Hell, also has some writing on it that says, abandon all hope, ye who enter here. So they're making fun of some of the issues of City Hall, some of the trouble in getting permits, the red tape, and what they're calling some ineptitude and delays and nepotism and things.
And on the left side, this is how subtle the humor is. At the end, on our side, there's one thing, like a centipede called the assessors.
There it is. You can
and
see
like
it right
there
now.
are 7 elements to it because there have been 7 assessors in New Orleans. Of course, they're doing away with that, creating one assessor, and of course, you got the multi-headed bureaucracy.
It's clever. It's so very clever.
Behind that gate opening and closing is probably some kid who's sitting back there. That's usually what works the mechanical
I can
elements
actually
of floats.
see it. I don't know if we can get a shot on this
they
side,
get some kid, like a grown son of one of the float riders, and give him a few dollars to pull a lever back and forth.
I can see that's exactly what's happening. This is a 600-member organization, but about 425 members actually ride. So there are 425, or should be around there, parading with this crew this evening. Having an awesome time. I'm sure while the crowd is cold and they're cold, they're kind of not feeling it right now. They're enjoying it.
This is a golden moment because here you have a float that's spoofing City Hall, passing Gallier Hall, which was City Hall until 1960, and so City Hall meets City Hall.
And there they are. They're throwing some beads to Jay Batt, and he's just having a good old time. He wants his job back. Not so sure if he really wants to enter those gates. All right, Kristen is down with one of the parade goers down there enjoying the night. Kristen.
Oh, we are having fun down here tonight. You know, something special about Mardi Gras is it brings people back to New Orleans who maybe perhaps evacuated with Katrina. You're back here enjoying it. Is it changed? Are you having fun?
Yes, I'm having an awesome time. There's no place like New Orleans. Even though I live in Geismar now, I come back every year. The atmosphere is wonderful. The people are great, and I'm just so glad to be here.
We're having a good time.
Yes, we are having a wonderful time.
Even if we do get hit with beads every so often, hey, it's worth it.
Bill and Han Hughes have been fans of the Coup d'etat since its inception. Bill is one of the charter members of the organization, and he remains very active in the organization today. Bill and Ann want to wish all of the revelers a safe and happy Mardi Gras. Poitras Home is a retirement community in uptown New Orleans for men and women over 60. offering independent living, assisted and nursing care, an Alzheimer's unit, and an adult day program. Been caring for New Orleans families since 1817. Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic and Spine Institute offers comprehensive evaluation and treatment programs for spinal injuries and disorders. The board-certified and fellowship-trained physicians work directly with the patients to develop individualized treatment. Speaking of Katrina recovery, the Chalmette High Marching Band, and nothing speaks more about recovery than anything from St. Bernard Parish, to know what that parish went through, and to see a band. It looks like a full scale. It looks to be intact, and so that's a very encouraging sign to see that.
You know, and speaking of Katrina, I think that was one of the more memorable years after Katrina in 2006 for this parade. There was a lot of folks had fun with that. You saw a lot of people walking around in FEMA blue just as costumes, but they had the coup d'etat, the d'etat Olympics. So they had, let's see, what was it? The refrigerator throw, the moldy refrigerator throw. They had skeleton crews and boats, and they had so much fun with that.
That 206 Mardi Gras, I maintain, was the most important Mardi Gras ever, because that was the Mardi Gras that showed the world that there was still life in New Orleans. There was still spark. You know, it's a good bit of controversy. There were some people who said we shouldn't do it, but other people said we should. Yeah. I think it would have really just been very depressing for people in New Orleans not to have some elements of Mardi Gras, and a few crews have really scaled down. But the fact that we still had it, it was successful. Imagine the message that would have gone to the world that New Orleans is so down and out they can't even stage a parade. So I thought that carnival was very, very important.
And that we could make fun or at least laugh just a little bit in the face of our tragedy, make fun of our moldy refrigerators and some of the things that happened, and say, okay, you know, we're past that, we're beyond that, and we're having fun.
I think this spot here along Gallia Hall is such a beautiful place to see a parade. There's so many beautiful images. I love that shot right there of a lieutenant and these old buildings with the balconies. I mean, there's so much poetry to a real classic-style New Orleans parade.
You know, we're seeing some more of the riding lieutenants.
Yeah, it's probably good that Ray Nagin is not the guy who's MC. This is the sign on front says only a few months left. Negligent ruler, and here's again. Guess who that is right there, steering the ship of state.
And I think what they're trying to show here is he's got his eyes shut. They're depicting him asleep at the wheel, and you know, kind of a rudderless ship here. And they've got his day planner up there. Thursday, no appointments. Wednesday, erase emails. Oh goodness. 2 p.m. call Tracy Washington. Oh, they've got his passport that was shanghaied. And it's all a blur as a reference to his Jamaica vacation when he couldn't exactly remember how it got paid for and what was going on with that. So there was a lot to work with, I think, with this float.
In retrospect, I think Jay Batt's the perfect guy to be doing this because he's been out of office for 4 years, and he can say, hey, it ain't my fault.
I had nothing to do with this.
And so he doesn't have to take any of this personally.
You know, we're looking at one of the flambeaus now, and they have about 40 of them that come back every year.
And but they built those.
And right.
Those were built by the coup d'etat organization. Any flambeau you see in other parades come from the Proteus Den. They were built like in the 1800s. The coup d'etat built their own flambeau. I really credit them for doing that. So those are fairly new. Those are probably fairly new torches, like the last 10 to 15 years, and it's just a great sight.
The keeper of the torch told us that those are actually from stoves actually imported from India, and he puts them together in his kitchen. Now, we can't tell you who he is. He's very secret, but what a clever guy. He sits down in the kitchen, puts these all together, and he says that they really aren't that dangerous, that there's not as much flammable liquid in there as you might think.
And even things you wouldn't think about, that like there's a holster that they have to put the torch in as a way of holding it. And that they got some company in Araby that does navigation equipment to design these just so that they can put the flambeau torch in.
Right, the little piece of canvas that they stick. Right.
Drill team here.
This is from the Citadel, South Carolina.
My mama wouldn't let me have one of those. She told me I was going to put somebody's eye out.
I've often wondered about these marching groups. They're so precise, and they do that across the course of a whole parade route.
And then this is probably one of several parades they're in as well. So it's not just the route, but day after, all day long they're doing this, some of them. Okay, we are getting ready for another theme float.
This is a float. The theme about is Tom Benson's investment deals that were part of the package to keep the Saints. Something I think a lot of people are really actually pleased with. But they got Benson boogieing, and he's able to boogie to the natural shaking elements of the float. The shaking is part of the real design of a float.
All right, and our Kristen is actually on that float with some of the riders. Kristen.
That's right, we're having fun. We're throwing beads. You having fun?
A blast. I'm having a ball. I do it every year.
Is this the best one so far?
I can't hear you.
Is this the best one so far?
Pretty much. It's cold, but it's fun.
We are having a good time. Let's throw yeah, let me throw out here.
Well, I'm jealous of her actually getting to get on the float. That's fun. So anyway.
It's one of those things that you know, they're talking about all the money and all the deals that went down, and really, who cares? They won the Super Bowl, you know?
So we're seeing the Satirize Benson, and Tom Benson himself, of course, will be riding in the Endymion Parade.
This is the resurrection of the flesh coming up in a second. We're still looking at some of the lieutenants and the beautiful flambeaux. Very traditional there.
This would be the how should we put this? Women who've been around. Joan Rivers and Cher and Dolly Parton.
There we go. We're seeing they've got Chris Owens out front, and caution, product will melt above 90 degrees. So basically, they're making fun of all these people who've had the plastic surgery and just keep going. Joan Rivers, who makes fun of herself now. Actually, are they real?
Oh my God!
Versace, yeah, that is kind of scary. Yeah.
But God bless Chris Owens, though. I mean, what an institution she is in New Orleans.
Absolutely, and hopefully, hey, she's realizing that we can all laugh at ourselves too. It's Mardi Gras. And now here we are here in I think I'm hearing it for the first time tonight, Stand Up and Get Crunk. A lot of the bands had to learn this, I think, probably pretty quick for this carnival season. And looking to see exactly who we have here. Is this St. Mary's Dominican?
Dominican High School, yeah.
Yes.
Over the past few years, the most common song with bands is that hey song. You know, people go and they go da 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 hey, and that's been very very common. I have a hunch that this year, saint-related music will surpass that.
Right.
Great Pyramid Scheme, false. Of course, that's Bernie Madoff being picked it up
Bernard
front.
Madoff, right. Talking about the Ponzi scheme, and this is the Ponzi pyramid, and 15% return on the investor report. Love Bernie. That's one of the little notices they have. Hedge funds. Burned by Bernie.
I bet Bernie wishes he could be at the parade tonight instead of
where he is, yeah. Oh, they lost retirement funds. They do such a good job with the characters and how they lay it out on the float.
Yeah.
It's just
those
it's just
cartoon-type
great.
characters are really typical of satirical parades. This is a great shot. This is what Coup d'etat did differently. Instead of just having all cartoon characters, to do full sculptured figures like this figure right here. That was a real introduction that the Coup d'etat made into satire.
And again, what on the top where it said Ponzi Pyramid, you can't see it right now, on the side, the things that they've added, instead of just painting them on, they've added them so they look sort of three-dimensional and kind of jutting out at you. And it's just a lot of care and effort and thought going into the production of this parade all around.
This is De La Salle High School on St. Charles Avenue, Cavaliers.
And I was reading some blogs from a while back about what people thought of the parade, and one girl said, I loved it, but there were a couple floats that I was offended by. But my friends told me I needed to lighten up, and I think that's what. So overall, her overall rating of the parade was awesome, although she just said, you know, I needed to lighten up on a couple of little things. So I think that's also the idea behind this, is that, you know, they want to be slightly offensive.
Yeah, if your friend gets too offended, she should avoid Bourbon Street on Mardi Gras.
Right.
I mean, that's what Carnival is. I mean,
right.
Carnival always had a satirical element to it. And one of the first and most common was female impersonation, going way back when, but there's always been satire.
This is the root of evil, and of course here they're really making fun of Acorn, the organization with its roots here in New Orleans that then spread out across the country. And the folks that caught him on camera saying that they were needing a loan, but they told him outright supposedly that they were going to operate a brothel of sorts, and they said, okay, no problem, we'll help you. So,
and those folks got in a little trouble themselves here.
Yeah, they said they'll take your stimulus check.
Okay.
The Dancing Delabertos.
This is really special that the crew has its own dance group that has a theme. And of course, this goes back to Buddy Diliberto, the late broadcaster's statement saying that if ever the Saints get into the Super Bowl, he'll wear a dress. And there was a parade a couple of weeks ago to do that, but this is the Dancing Dilibertos.
And normally they do dance. They are the Dictators dancing Dollins every year, but this is their theme this year, which is just priceless and wonderful, isn't it? Don't they look awesome? Look at those legs.
They're absolutely beautiful.
They're so game, too, to do this.
There's female impersonation, and there's ugly guys dressing like women.
There's Kristen down there with one of the Dancing Dilibertos.
All right,
Kristen.
teach me the dance. Teach me the dance. One arm out. We're going this way. We gotta do our leg. All right.
Okay, now that
Left,
Kristen's got
left.
the whole line going now.
To the left, to the right now, to the right.
Reminds me of the Rockettes. Exactly. Okay.
It's not that hard. We got it.
There
What
they are.
choreography?
They've
Okay,
got the huddle now.
All right, they're Now, when Buddy Diliberto was, in most of his time, he was criticizing the Saints because they weren't doing very well. And so he made a statement about wearing a dress. He also talked about whenever he got dumb callers, he referred to them as squirrels.
Squirrels, yeah.
And so now we're seeing the squirrel
The
cage,
squirrel cage.
Passing by. Song's a squirrel. I don't see a squirrel in there, but there is a cage.
They've got him on there, but you know what? Wouldn't he have just loved this tribute? Not only that the Saints won the Super Bowl, but just how much he's been remembered and through this whole ride.
If you remember, Buddy Diliberto had his own unique speech pattern, and on the back it said, "Say habla Dilibonics."
Oh, he used to butcher some words, and you know, he just would go on and make fun of himself. He was wonderful. And here, oh no.
This is a tribute to Tiger Woods. He skanked it.
He skanked it. And Oh, there's all of Tiger's kittens, and he's got the front nine scorecard, and they've got all the names listed. And if we can see the sponsors, if we can get a close-up of the sponsors that used to sponsor Tiger, now they're scratching them off. It's towards the back of the float. If you look to the very, very back, they've got them all scratched off.
Now, you see, that incident happened Thanksgiving weekend, and so this all came together, this particular float. There are some floats that need to do earlier in the year just so they can have time to build everything. This would be one that they've really had to put together fairly recently.
Right, and I know, as you said earlier, that they do sort of save some molds, in a sense, that they can do for things that happen, because they are looking at what's happening all year long to sort of make fun of. And there were some things that happened in December that they said, gosh, these were good ones that we didn't get a chance to really take advantage of. West Jefferson High's Air Force ROTC. All right, this one I think kind of speaks for itself. Lust. Politicians gone wild. Oh no.
Governor Sanford, Senator Edwards, and yes, I guess I gotta say, Senator Vitter's there, and it's.
And there's Senator Edwards and his love child that looks just like him. Looks like he's in a little cocoon. It is fun the way they do these. They do the caricatures are just hilarious. But
when I've talked to the captain of this crew about his floats, he keeps on saying, "It's all in fun. It's all in good spirit." I mean, one wonders how amused these senators would be if they see his parade with.
There he is again, the service menu, and that I think the headliner there was Senator Vitter, unfortunately for him. Oh, now we have the Tulane Naval ROTC. So Tulane well represented here tonight.
Another big band, 8 pieces to it, but hey, they're trying.
They sound good.
I think the hero is the guy in the back. There's the guy pulling a wagon. I guess with the supplies and things.
All right, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Murphy, McEnery and Company Appraisal Service, LLC, is a Gulf South-based real estate appraisal and consulting firm with extensive experience in the New Orleans metro area, the Baton Rouge Metroplex, and the Mississippi-Alabama Gulf Coast. They specialize in commercial and residential appraisals and consulting for large and small institutional lenders, private folks, and estate planning, as well as developmental feasibility studies.
Locke, Lord, Bissell, and Liddell
is a full-service national law firm with many strong practice areas, including corporate, energy, environmental, financial services, healthcare, insurance, intellectual property, public law, many others. With a vast geographic scope and a national reputation in complex litigation, Locke Lord is focused on achieving client success as a team. Bienvenue Foster, Ryan, and O'Banion is a New Orleans-based law firm providing sound legal services to Louisianians for over 60 years in commercial litigation, construction, oil and gas, land contracts, and management, admiralty, storm, and accident cases. Visit www.bienvenuefoster.com. Thanks so very much to all of our sponsors this evening. You can't turn around or you can't watch TV these days without seeing a commercial for Viagra or Cialis. There they are making fun of that commercial with the two guys or the man and the woman in the tub, Viva Viagra, which, come on, is pretty hokey in and of itself.
If it lasts longer than 4 hours, call your doctor. So, yeah.
And that's what I think the Gazette says. If this parade lasts more than 4 hours, call your doctor. There they are, the giant Viagra ball. I mean, that's everywhere. If you're not careful, your email you get it sent to you every day, all over the place, all over TV.
A few years ago, it was unspeakable, and
Yep.
Here we are in the
Wish I had
broadcast of the
stock in
Carnival.
it.
Yeah.
You know, they sit around with little help from their friends like Jack Daniels and that when they sit down and come up with these ideas. A secret committee that sits down and does this, and I'm sure that it's a blast as they just sort of toss out ideas and come up with, and they'll probably do that pretty soon for next year. But those guys are good at what they do. They really, really are. Now we are coming up on the Nobel Prize. See, nobody is off limits to this crew. This is the experiment of his own power is what this float is entitled. And of course, that's our president. And even he too is being poked fun at tonight by the
What they're suggesting, if he got the Nobel Prize, then why can he not get, as you'll see on the side, the Heisman or the Oscar, or be a champion of the Masters, or be a president of General Motors.
Or a five-star general,
Yeah.
or the Surgeon General.
Why not?
It's funny, and they've got the same kind of face with his big smile in there.
Or
And then in the back, you can see the Marlboro Man. It was cute.
Every parade has its title truck. This is the truck by the float building company. Again, it's Royal Artists that did this parade. You can see them coming up. So there you
There
go.
it is, Sir Saint.
There's
and,
Sir Saint.
and his Lombardi trophy.
He too
All right.
carrying a Lombardi trophy.
They really work hard.
You are Mardi Gras.
There he is. All right, the severed head. The severed head speaks. And can you see who that is? Can you recognize who that head is? That's actually Greg Mefford,
Oh, I
the former
see. Oh, yeah.
technology
Okay. Oh,
chief
sure.
for the city of New Orleans. And what they're saying here is, you know, when he was working for the city, he lost his head a few times. He lost his head with those credit cards he spent, you know.
Meanwhile, Mayor Nagin is in Hawaii doing
They're doing the aloha.
Aloha.
No bid contracts, the crime cameras out of order, tax fraud conspiracy. Ugh.
And in the back is Jim. Some of the funniest gags are in the back.
In the back, yeah.
There's Jim Letton with the federal axe.
About to come down. Yeah.
Every so often you'll see like a little 4 or 5 piece brass band pass by. I like that. I like having jazz as part of Carnival parades.
Mixed in. I know one year they had something of Latin where and he called up. He found one of the secret crew members and said, you know, I want to have that. I think there was a head or something of him. He said he liked it so much he wanted the head.
Here you go. This is a spoof on the recent election, last week's election. All the candidates for council at large and for mayor, including Jay Batt, who's
And Jay Batt. I don't know if he can see himself.
There's Anybody But Batt sign on this, and Jackie Clarkson.
And basically they're saying Eddie's not ready. Yeah, and he wasn't. He decided not to. If at first you don't succeed, run again. I guess they're making fun of some of these perennial candidates.
I think Jay Batt has seen the joke because people are pointing it out to him. And
he's laughing now.
At least publicly he's laughing. When he gets home tonight, who knows? You know, but
Oh boy, now our police chief is getting his due now from the coup d'etat. Misleading crime statistics. They're calling this one the face of falsehood. And he's got a serpent's tongue sticking out of his mouth. Oh my.
I'm looking at some of the police along the route, see if they are reacting to this. And, they're so bundled up, I can't see any reactions. We're on the very back. Again, the funny stuff is on the back. There's Nagin, the police chief.
Riley. Happy
Look at
trails.
Happy trails.
Because they're
That's a
both
great
leaving
shot. I'm glad
office.
y'all got that.
That is priceless. And the whole side, really, if you looked at it sort of in its totality, was all the evidence leaving the evidence room somehow. The NOPD's evidence
very
room.
clever float.
Yeah, very.
These floats actually have two themes. There's one that's being that's held by a person beforehand that sets it up. Never
Right.
happened. And then
That's
Sea
great.
Ray's magical illusions.
They're talking about all the things that he talked about at one point that could happen for the city of New Orleans that never did. The Trump Tower, the casino districts. I like that, the Trump Tower. They're calling him, if you see him coming up there,
Well, the Jazz Parks, New Orleans, everyone.
the light rail system.
For the second time we've seen his devil's horns. There was that float way up in front.
And the
so.
flames all around him. Sell the New Orleans airport and then the Hyatt with
Yeah.
with the Katrina windows in it.
That is good satire. I mean, that's really on target right there.
And if you're not laughing, you might just be missing the joke because it's funny stuff. It really
Or
is.
if you're not laughing, you might be Mayor Nagin.
Yeah. Good observation there. Oh. All right, there's the United States Navy Recruiting Command.
Okay, this next float, the carrier is saying no shame, which is in the theme is Seekers of Fame.
Seekers of Fame. And, oh, this is about the people who are famous for being famous. And I think that in the front, that's Kate from John and Kate +8.
Yeah,
And I think that was before she got her
Yeah,
hair
yeah.
extensions, you know, so they don't have her hair extensions, but they've got, if you look closely, you can find
Well, Reggie
some
Bush is
wonderful characters.
Reggie Bush, as you can see, a leg squeeze, Kim Kardashian.
Right. And then there he is. There's Reggie. About to get a drink there.
The Octomom.
And the Octomom, and they have her looking cross-eyed. It's funny. Reality check.
But you're right, you described it well. Famous and being famous. They didn't do anything else, but they just became famous.
Balloon boy on the back.
Oh.
If you can see, there he is.
That's
He's
good.
just a little touch like that just makes it.
And up on top of the start, it says media hype, which is part of it too.
Right. The Bones and Brigade. The Bones Brigade. Excuse me, Bones Brigade. There you go, Errol. There's your little band.
Yeah. I like having this jazz.
And look at the back of that too. When they come up, just a nice touch there. A really neat little fleur-de-lis.
Here you go, the Bill Jefferson family. Thieves tormented by serpents. You see up front the brothers Jefferson, Mose and Bill.
There they. Well, look at him with his glasses
People,
on there.
some of their indictments still. They've
They've got him in their prison garb already, though, don't they?
I mean, in fairness, they haven't gone to trial yet, but they've been indicted. But Mose and Bill certainly have. That's fun.
Right. And the whole family's part of that float. The Jefferson family reunion. Oh goodness, there's Mose and Bill. And now we have U.S. Coast Guard.
And people may have heard about newspapers around the country, how they've had to downsize, and this is about newspapers, and it's a.
That internet internet CRAP is killing us.
Yeah.
And that is true. Bye-bye birdies, subscribers and advertising, they're saying.
So they're fighting them by having websites of their own. So, but yeah.
Did you see that? At least the Times-Picayune is good for something. Eat your crawfish on. It's cute.
I tell you, the last couple of weeks have been big for the Times-Picayune with all those Saints front page covers.
They've had to do additional printings, and they've had lines around the corner to get those. So it's been good for a lot of folks in the city.
And finally,
Just us average fans as well.
And we're coming to the last float.
Yeah, and they're starting to go fast now. I think maybe everybody's getting a little cold, but speaking of cold, and this is the Cool Breeze Float Paradiso. Now, they didn't know initially when they were working on this that we would win the Super Bowl. They were just saying, okay, this is, you know, the what-if float.
But they
Hell
borrowed
freezing
from
over.
Jim Henderson's famous statement, hell freezes over,
Right.
up on top. And, of course, you got Buddy DiLiberto.
Lowest crime, but they're saying that, you know, everything's wonderful. New Orleans crime rate's the lowest in the nation. We now have Category 5 flood protection. The streets are 100% repaired. This is paradise in the city of New Orleans. At least we got, you know, one of the things.
In the world of carnival parades, they do things well. The parade moved well. It was original. You didn't see anybody with a mask off, drinking a beer, or taking a smoke.
No.
It's a very well organized parade. It's very well done. And they've put on a good show tonight.
All right, what an awesome parade. One of those that will go down sort of in the memory book for a lot of people. Images that just, I'm still laughing. I'm still laughing. Octomom and Tiger Woods and all the folks that they had fun with this year. Just a great parade.
I guess if you try to rank who got the barb most, I would say probably Ray Nagin.
Ray Nagin did.
The good news for Ray Nagin is that it may not happen next year because he's only got a couple of months left in office, and so they're going to be somebody else. The Jefferson family has perennially gotten the barb.
Yes.
But the whole government life and celebrities in trouble, people who maybe gotten in some sort of affairs and sexual problems got the barb a good bit too, from politicians and Tiger Woods.
I think the wonderful thing about this parade is that, you know, you kind of can't take your eye away for a second. You might miss something, and I'm glad that we were able to sort of help bring that closer to you. If you turned away thinking that the float was gone and that was done, and you missed the back, that was wonderful how they were able to say, you know, bye-bye with one last jab, and a lot of times just so irreverent and funny.
It was a well-organized parade. The bands moved efficiently. You heard music. There was the little extra touches like the dancing DiLibertos.
Right, they were wonderful.
Kind of thing. And so it had a lot of good elements to it.
A tremendous amount of energy, and you can see it in everything they do, from the floats to the Gazette to the enthusiasm, the costumes, everything. And we're going to take a look at those wonderful throws, too. Kristen's down on the street with some of the things she caught, because, again, they're just so innovative in everything they do. Kristen.
That's right. In addition to the traditional beads that I'm wearing, there's a lot of things that people will be able to take home. A gargoyle, you'll see the traditional green gargoyle. There's a lot of a scepter. This thing lights up, pretty special there. This thing also lines up, little skeleton head, nice and scary there. Also the traditional cup. I love catching cups at parades. Use them all year long. Remember the fun that you have. So they spare no expense, attention to detail. People love things that light up. They wear it all night long. So pretty cool little throws they have.
Why did they throw to Kristen and you, and not to me? I just don't get it. So
Yeah, your back was to him a lot earlier.
oh, maybe that was the reason. Yeah. So
Maybe next year, and we're so glad that you could join us this year, and we hope to see you back next year. Thanks for watching, and thanks for the Krewe d'Etat for a wonderful parade.
Special thanks to our sponsors, Bill and Ann Hughes, Poitras Home, and the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic and Spine Institute.
Also, Murphy, McEnery and Company Appraisal Service,
Locke, Lord, Bissell, and Liddell.
Bienvenue, Foster, Ryan, and O'Banion. Thanks so very much to all these sponsors.